Hi guys, welcome back to Miscellaneous Pleasures. I am back with episode 6 from season 2 of Dark. Last time we had very interesting things happening in the episode. Actually, when I say interesting things in the last episode, I mean the last two because I watched both of them like one after the other with a gap of like 10 minutes or something. Uh, so yeah, what happened last time? We obviously had the confirmation that Noah is Charlotte's father. We also had Adam talking to Jonas, or should I say, oldest. Actually, you know what? It's cleaner to say just Adam because older Jonas, and then we have middle-aged Jonas, and then we have the kid Jonas. I guess I should just address them as Jonas, Stranger, and Adam. So we had Adam talking to Jonas about, well, war on time and other stuff. It was an interesting conversation that they had, an extended version of it, should I say. And at the end of it all, he decided that Jonas is going to come back to break the cycle, to sort of stop everything from happening as it has. And the way to do it is to stop his father from committing suicide. I have my reservations about that idea, but the thing that I've always said, like when I say always, I have said it like twice or thrice, is that it's a show about time travel, and at some point of time, even if you want to keep maintaining this closed loop sort of logic, at some point of time you have to break the loop so that the story can move forwards. And I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to do so. So I am looking forward to interesting stuff. And as I said, another thing, the big ball that's there in 1921 that breaks the 33-year cycle. So it need not be the case. So maybe that's the sort of thing that's required to break the cycle. Like, you have the one that Thanos made. There is obviously the caves. These two seem to follow the 33-year cycle. And maybe that's the reason that there is a closed loop. And maybe this is what is needed to break the cycle. Uh, yeah, and also we found out that Charlotte is adopted. I I did not rewatch any of my previous reactions or episodes, so I'm not really sure even now whether we knew of this earlier, because I'm pretty sure we found out only this season that her parents were like, I mean, she always lived with Thanos, and that she did not have her parents in her childhood. But then, okay, just give me a second. Um, yeah, so yeah, so this was a season that we found out that Charlotte's parents, I mean, we don't know who they are. And so I don't think at the time we knew that Thanos wasn't her real grandfather. Like, I don't think it was mentioned anywhere. Uh, so that was interesting. And now, yeah, Noah wants to kill Adam because Adam sort of, or at least Noah thinks that Adam lied to him and, did not tell about Charlotte's, or who Charlotte was, or where she was, when she was, these type of things. And then we had the unfortunate Ulrich. I mean, yeah, that was sad, wasn't it? He basically had all of his kids in 1987. He met Mikhail, but then he couldn't meet Martha and Magnus. And there was obviously that classic dark BGM that was playing at the time. And yeah, that was a sad and beautiful scene at the same time. Um, so yeah, here we go because I can't wait for this episode. Uh, so yeah, here we go. Wait, what?
Werden wir überhaupt jemals in der Lage sein zu wissen,
Why is everything
was der
reversing?
Ursprung von allem ist?
Wait, what? Why is this song playing? Okay. Okay, this is not the blue room. I thought for a second that we are in the blue room again. Okay, I'm guessing that this is before his father committed suicide. Because, he looks normal, unlike the Jonas, unlike the way Jonas looks like right now. All sort of
Guten Morgen.
all sort of sad and stuff. Okay, so this is 20th of June, a day before. Yeah, the day before he committed suicide.
Was die röteln. Von allen Tagen musst du dir ausgerechnet heute aussuchen?
Come on. It's interesting how within the first 5-10 minutes, yeah, about 5 to 10 minutes of this episode, where we have seen this world of people before, as Jonas termed it, before everything went bad. It's interesting how Hannah and Mikkel, they're sort of okayish, but then there's obviously a certain amount of disappointment and sort of frustration that's there within Hannah. And then we have seen this scene where there seems to be some sort of basically Ulrich and Katharina don't seem to be in sync about their marriage life and physical relationship life and all those type of things. It sort of puts things into perspective. Like I guess it was just a situation of where two people who were sort of going through a bad patch in their own personal life, sort of two people who were friends from their childhood, and obviously one person who was madly in love with the other person, sort of got together, I guess. So situations, isn't it? Murder and Marburg.
Kommst du nachher?
Wait, so he's a murderer who...
Ob du heute Mittag im Hotel vorbeikommst?
Ja, natürlich.
This is a beautiful town, isn't it?
Kennt ihr die Geschichte von der Frau, die hier ertrunken ist? Wenn das Wasser so klar ist, dann kann man da unten noch...
What?
Und manchmal spürt man ihre Hände an den Füßen beim Schwimmen. Aber das ist noch nicht das Krasseste. Das Krasseste ist, wenn sie Hunger hat, dann zieht sie die Leute runter zu sich.
Oh, this is just a perfectly planned sort of prank.
Sehr witzig. Frage ich mich, ob meine Eltern eigentlich wirklich glücklich miteinander sind.
Oh, she has noticed.
Oder ob man sich einfach damit arrangiert, was man hat.
It means their relationship was so bad that it was noticeable. And I'm guessing he's going to have a similar response.
Keine Ahnung.
Basically meaning the same.
Ultimate Fisper?
Du, fass die kleine Pestbolle da hinten bloß nicht an, der hat die Rötel.
Wait, didn't he?
Wo ist denn dein Fahrrad? Sollen wir dich mitnehmen? Na dann bis heute Abend.
Ich kenne mindestens eine Person, die sich besonders freut, wenn du kommst. Und die heißt nicht Magnus.
Okay, the dad is being
Kein Geheimnis,
the
dass
wingman.
voll nicht verschossen ist.
Hört auf. Komm, wir nehmen dich mit und setzen dich am See ab.
Nein, ist in Ordnung, wirklich.
Gut.
Okay.
Also dann bis später, Romeo.
Nein.
Are you kidding me, Magnus? You idiot! So these two obviously had a thing for each other.
Fuck.
That is Jonas, right? Our Jonas who just traveled back from 1921 standing behind the tree. Yeah, the yellow is clearly... Yeah, it's him. What is he doing here? This is not what...
Perfekt zusammen.
Okay, you said it first.
Denk nie was anderes.
This is not what you're supposed to be doing here, dude. Wait, so the future version of Jonas was the first one to kiss Martha. Because this is obviously the first time that they are doing it. What is he doing? Like, I don't understand. I mean, he's obviously seeing his younger self. Yeah, I would sort of run away too if I have somebody doing that to me. Oh my god. He doesn't know it, does he? Like, she thinks she kissed him, but then he kissed his older self, so that's going to be an awkward conversation. Ultimate fist bump. I knew it. Like, I'm pretty sure I've seen this before. I think in the first episode. Yeah.
Warum hast du das gerade gesagt?
Weil ich es weiß, Papa. Es nicht zu tun.
Was nicht zu tun.
Oh shit.
Es ist Ulrichs und
I
Katharinas.
just effing realized.
Du bist nicht mitgegangen, so wie immer. Du bist hier geblieben.
He's the guy who gives the idea. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Ich hätte merken müssen, dass was ist.
I hate the bootstrap paradox.
Ich habe keine Ahnung.
Lüg mich nicht an, okay? Ich weiß es. Verdammte Scheiße. Ich weiß, dass du dich am Atelier hängen wirst. Hast du den Brief
Yeah.
schon geschrieben?
Are you kidding me?
Welchen Brief?
Den Brief, den du an mich schreibst.
Ich habe darüber nachgedacht, was du am See gesagt hast.
Über Omas und das Internet?
Oh, dude. Oh, this is... Okay, I mean, this does happen, right? This is a dream that he has. This is when it happened, I'm guessing.
In der Nacht, als du verschwunden bist. Du warst da und dann warst du plötzlich weg. Bist du zurück zur Höhle?
Yeah.
Hast du eine Passage gefunden?
Yeah. So what did he do actually?
Sie nicht gefunden. Jemand hat sie mir gezeigt.
Someone showed it to me.
Wer?
Du.
What? Does he mean stranger?
Wie meinst du das?
Wait, it was this Jonas?
Wir sind gerannt.
Wait, what?
Hab ich dich verloren. Ich habe mich umgedreht und du warst weg.
Okay.
Dann warst du plötzlich wieder da.
Schnell. Hier lang.
What the hell?
Da ist etwas im Wald. Etwas Böses. Er hat einen Plan. Für jeden von
Wait, who is that? Claudia. Wait, isn't she supposed to be dead? Or did she do this before she died? Like,
Auf diesen Moment gewartet, dass wir uns wiedersehen.
Wer bist du? Gehörst du zu Adam?
Da draußen gibt es zwei Seiten.
Er ist der
Oh, this is the first time he meets her.
Seite des Lichts. Er hat dich angelogen. Er hat gegen Adam.
Aber wenn es mich nicht gibt, wenn ich nicht geboren werde, dann kann es Adam auch nicht geben.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Gesehen. Glaub mir. Sie ist nicht das, was du erwartest. Es gibt Momente im
Okay.
Leben, da muss man verstehen, dass die Entscheidungen, die man trifft, nicht nur das eigene Schicksal angehen. Martha, du allein.
Wait, everybody seems to be playing the bloody Martha card with him. Like, honestly,
Soll es heißen?
stop manipulating the kid.
Ist das jetzt die Apokalypse?
Schon ein bisschen enttäuschend.
Wait, that's
Ich hab mir
what
lauter vorgestellt.
they said to each other back in '86, in like the third episode or something, or fourth.
Wir machen eine Lüge zu unserer Wahrheit, um zu überleben. Versuchen zu vergessen, bis es nicht mehr geht.
Dude, he
Wir kennen
still
nicht einmal
has
die
the
Hälfte der Mysterien
has
dieser
that
Welt.
thing.
Wir sind Wanderer in der Dunkelheit.
Nicht mehr lange. Dann beginnt der letzte Zyklus.
Wir alle müssen Opfer.
Madness? What? Wait, what? Madness. So he time traveled with Jonas to wherever this is. I mean, yeah, I know where this is. Like, this is 1921. But like, what the hell? I mean, I did not expect that curveball. So who was that standing next to Magnus? Was it Francisca or was it Martha? I have a feeling it could be Francisca, because if it's Martha, then why is Adam like sort of sad and stuff? Like, that wouldn't make sense. Okay, just let me write this down. So Magnus and Francisca are in 1921, right? So wait, are they in the photograph that this guy has? I mean, Charlotte had, like, she got it from the Thanos sort of old storage and stuff like that. That photograph that we saw, we have seen like 4 or 5 times, where we have seen Noah and Agnes, and there is obviously Adam who is sitting in the middle. I mean, I'm not going to go back and look because I am afraid that I'll find other people in it that I shouldn't. But I wonder if Magnus and Francisca are there. Okay, this was a sort of, I feel like, a defining moment in this TV series. Like, it wasn't the best episode that I watched till now, I don't think so. I mean, certainly it hasn't sort of raised the most sort of reactions or sort of, you know, I don't know what the word is, but then, yeah, this is definitely not the best episode of the series, but I feel like this episode was done as well as it could have been, because the one thing that the show has done, and I'm an idiot to fall for this. The thing is, the one thing that the show has done since the beginning has sort of told repeatedly that there is no going back. There is no sort of go back in time and change the past or something. This is how it has always happened, and this is how it will continue to happen. Everything is a bloody cycle. But then this show told all of this to us, right? So I'm an idiot to believe that this episode could have changed anything any of those above things, because, like, you know, there was obviously the big black ball that, you know, could send back or send in time forwards any person breaking this 33-year cycle. So there's one. And there's obviously the other where, these people go on about how they want to break or have the last cycle, which means like the last cycle has to be the one that's like never going to repeat, right? Like that's the one that's going to like finish off. But it feels like they are stuck in this repeated cycle thing. So I believe that, okay, maybe this episode is the one that's going to begin the last cycle for us. But that wasn't the case. But then this guy, Adam, towards the end of the episode, did mention something about the last cycle is going to begin soon or something. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's still hope for us. But yeah, I should have expected this earlier, that Jonas would be the one to cause it. Like, I've seen this a million times in, like, Doctor Who, Flash, and, like, even Tenet, to be honest. Like, where somebody goes back in time and causes the thing that they wanted to prevent. Like, that's just one of the more cliche sort of things in time travel stories. And I should have seen that coming, but I didn't. And that's sort of, like, credit to the show, because, they made me do that mistake. Talking of the episode in general, okay, I mean, let's begin at the beginning, right? We had this cool sequence of scenes, like first minute or so, where we saw everything that we have seen up to this point sort of reverse, which sort of also gave me a feeling that maybe everything is changing, but it did not. And then we got an opportunity to see the lives of the people that we have been seeing till now, but we have been seeing them as the people that they are after the things have begun to happen to them, like Mikkel disappearing. Like, that obviously changed stuff to, what's his name, Ulrich, Katharina, and all those people. There's obviously the Mikkel's suicide, which changed Hannah and Jonas, and there was like disappearance and stuff that changed the whole town, right? But we got to see these people before everything changed. And even though there seemed to be a lot of friction within their families, Hannah and Mikkel sort of not being in the best of their sort of sync. Similarly, for Ulrich and Katharina, there's obviously the Charlotte and Peter one, which was more obvious that there's trouble in the marriage. But then, yeah, they seemed happy. There seemed to be happy moments. There seemed to be normalcy to all of that. I feel like, I mean, not everybody is going around cheating in the real world, but then you do have families that could represent exactly how this world was set before Mikkel's death. So this was essentially that town, and yeah, we got to see that. I also liked the first couple of points I've written down, like Mikkel's deja vu with the yellow coat. Now it actually makes sense, because I'm guessing, there's nothing to guess. Jonas with the yellow coat, the guy with, when I say Jonas, I mean the kid version of the guy. And in this context, I mean the one with bruised neck. So I'm going to call this guy bruised neck Jonas and normal Jonas. I don't think we're going to see normal Jonas, are we? Let's just go with this guy. So basically, this guy, obviously, with the yellow coat, took Mikkel from 2019, November 13th? No, not November 13th, November 4th. November 4th, 2013, at the time. He took him to 1986. So, I'm guessing that that's the deja vu that Mikkel had. The next point I've written down is, all of this happens on 20th June 2019. That is, of course, the day before Mikkel's death. I'm guessing Mikkel died on like the stroke of midnight or something, or maybe just past midnight. I'm not really sure exactly at what time he died. Yeah, I obviously sort of paused in between. I talked about how Hannah and Ulrich sort of lives seem to have frictions already, and the multiple circumstances and situations, hormones and other stuff basically sort of all help together to begin this affair that they eventually had. And we obviously saw the beginnings of those. And yeah, it made sort of, I'm never going to say that it made sense why they had the affair, because it never does. But yeah, I don't know. It is what it is, isn't it? Um, yeah, one of the more interesting things, I mean, I was actually going to criticize Jonas for doing this, to go forward in time 99 years or 98 years. And the one thing that you had to do was to prevent your father from dying. And the first thing that he did was go and kiss Martha and sort of be the wingman to himself, because that's the first time she kissed him. Even though he had done that before, it was the first time that she had done it with him. So he was the like sort of instigator of all of this. But yeah, I'm not going to criticize him for that, because he couldn't have obviously gone and talked to Mikkel in the like morning or something, because Hannah was obviously probably still in the house, and he had to obviously pick a time when nobody would be in the house, and that was obviously the time of the party, because he was sure that Mikkel won't attend that. So yeah, I mean, the whole kissing thing, like it sort of makes sense, because if you're going to go back in time, and you're going to go back to a time which had none of the madness that's present in your current life. And if you're going to go back, then you may as well sort of live a bit. And he did that. So, but then it was sort of funny to see Martha and Jonas interact in Martha's house, where, she was like, I was thinking about what you said earlier. I was like, about grandmothers and internet. And then there was another line which I forget. But yeah, that sequence is sort of funny, and, But this chain thing, yeah, I mean, the chain thing, I did not notice it at the first, but then towards the end, like the second time I saw it, when in the house of Martha, yeah, it sort of struck me that this is the same chain that she saw in like the last episode or the one before, right? Where Stranger went to the Nielsen house and kept the chain on the bed, and then it was the same chain that we saw towards the end of this episode with Adam. So this chain is starting to become this thing that's sort of traveling through time with people, and I wonder, like, I mean, at this point, I wonder how it even went there. Like, what's the beginning of the chain? Like, if you're going to tell me that it's also a bootstrap, then I'm probably going to agree with you. But then it's interesting to see the cycle of that chain, because what was the chain doing in there in the first place? Because if you think about it, in 1921, Adam has it. So if Jonas at some point of time, when he was stranger, and then he was Adam, and he still has that chain with him. So if he kept it here for Martha to find, the stranger Jonas, then where does the stranger find it again? Like, I don't know. I'm thinking too much. Yeah, I mean, talking of how happy the town was, like, I feel like that one scene, not one scene, but like those two scenes, like the one we see the 4 kids cycling towards the lake, and then there was the prank that Magnus and Bartos, they basically pranked Martha about, there was some woman and who drowned in the lake, and then, like, that sort of sequence, like, it showed how sort of, even though broken and sort of imperfect, yet there were some happy moments that were there in the town. And of course, there was like 2 shots that I particularly noticed, and I will make sure, I hope I remember that, to make sure that those 2 sequences where I sort of, that was just beautiful, man. Those 2 shots that we saw, one was, I think, nearer to the nuclear power plant, the other was of a lake. Those 2 shots were just beautiful. And like, those are the things that make you think about how happy and stuff this town was before Mikkel's death. So yeah, I am sort of happy to see those things. Yeah, and it was Ulrich and Katharina's 25th year anniversary, wasn't it? it sort of stings a bit knowing that that was the day he chose to have the affair or begin to have the affair. Yeah, that doesn't sit right with me, but then this whole thing doesn't. So how does it matter if one thing or the whole thing does? So yeah, obviously we found out that Jonas was the guy who took Mikhail in 1986. I've already talked about that. It's this whole thing about the closed loop and all those type of things. Like the one thing that I do sort of have an issue with is it seems like everybody is manipulating Jonas. Like even his future self is manipulating him. There's obviously Claudia who comes there and says all the things about Adam. Like why should Jonas even trust her? Like what has Claudia done to Jonas? I mean, when I say Jonas, I mean this Jonas. For him to sort of believe what Claudia is saying, like obviously he's going to believe because she's coming in there and she's obviously a time traveler and she's saying stuff like, I was waiting for this moment where I would meet you and stuff like that. So there's obviously going to be some sort of like curiosity and sort of like, what, maybe this person knows what she's talking about. But then they're obviously manipulating Jonas, and that's what, yeah, I mean, it's obviously closed loop, so you can't really sort of point out one particular thing as, maybe this shouldn't have happened or that shouldn't have happened. But then I still don't understand why Mikhail has to die. Like, okay, let's say Mikhail doesn't die. Let's say Mikhail doesn't commit suicide. How does that change the fact that Mikhail, okay, I'm going to refer to them as Mikhail and Mikhail. So how does the fact that Mikhail doesn't commit suicide change anything about what Mikhail does on November 4th at 10:13 p.m.? That's what I fail to understand, because like I understand butterfly effect and how this one change could lead to a catastrophe of events. Like I understand that, but then what's the logical flow here? Like, so does so does that mean that Jonas, the guy who took Mikhail to 1986, doesn't do that? Like, is that the reason he commits suicide? Because he's sort of convincing everybody, especially Jonas, the neck bruise Jonas, that, what, I'm going to commit suicide because I want to save your life. I want to continue this loop because if I don't die, then you don't get to live. And he commits suicide and sort of also tells that, what, you're going to take me to 1986 by telling that story. So like, I don't understand the exact logical flow here, but I'm going to go with it because it's a closed loop. So whatever you do, it's not going to change any bloody thing. Unless, of course, there comes a time when it does, and that's when we can have this conversation. The ultimate fist bump, like, I am 100% sure I have seen that before. I was just sort of confused, but I'm pretty sure we saw that in the first episode. And it was interesting that we saw it again, the beginning of this episode, and I was like, wait, have I seen that before? And then, of course, that's what he uses to sort of reveal to his father, Mikhail, that this Jonas knows about him and the time travel and all those things. So, yeah, that is sort of interesting. The Franziska Magnus thing, like, it's a bit weird, isn't it? Like, it seems like he likes her, even on June 20th, 2019. And she was just lying. I mean, like, I don't know if this will make to the reaction, but then there was this scene, right, where she was just floating on water. The fact that she was naked doesn't change anything, but then she was just floating on water. Like, I was like, okay, is this supposed to be the drowned person that Bartosz was talking about earlier? And then Magnus sort of runs towards her, and then she's sort of standing and like, hey, what are you doing here? Their sort of relationship seems to be very weird. Like, I don't know. And at this point, I'm pretty sure even she likes him, so that's what makes the whole thing interesting, I guess. But I fail to understand that. But what's more interesting is the fact that she's still with him in 1921 as artists. So I mean, if it works, it works, I guess. Yeah. And then obviously we saw, I mean, the song sequence, I won't include any of it because there was nothing that happened there that I wanted to. I don't think there was anything in there that I want to be a part of this reaction that I will sort of compile. But then there was obviously the scene where, Peter enters that truck to have his affair. And I'm pretty sure he has done that before too, so this wasn't the first time he was doing it. But then Francisca was standing behind him, like far behind him. And she obviously saw, so, but I'm guessing that's the first time she found out about all of this. Like she probably had an idea that something like this was probably happening, but then she probably got her conclusive proof of this is what he was doing. So, yeah, I don't know. But what's next? Like, what is next? Like, this is the one thing that I've consistently failed with this show is to sort of think about what will happen next and fail at it because I don't know what's going to happen next. Like, what are we going to see? What is the things that hasn't been answered yet? Like, things like Charlotte's mother, yes, that's not been answered, but it's not something that's going to take an whole episode to understand, is it? Like, it's just going to be a reveal. And, like, okay, so I'm thinking of the things that hasn't been explained or, like, things have to happen. Like, there's obviously the question of what's the next cycle, how is it even going to happen, and how does the apocalypse happen? But then, I don't remember what day we are on. Like, this episode was completely on June 20th. But before that, they were always telling, like, 3 days, 2 days, 4 days. So I don't know at which stage we are in right now. There are 2 episodes left. So I'm guessing the next episode is going to be about the day before the apocalypse, and the last episode is going to be about the day of the apocalypse. Maybe. So there is that. But then, like, this is the whole picture, right? What sort of stuns me is the individual characters, like, what are they going to do? Because there are so many and there are like 3 iterations of them. So it becomes sort of difficult to sort of comprehend what every single one of them is going to be doing. But yeah, I am excited for this. This season has been very good. This season has been extremely good. And yeah, that's all for this reaction, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe. But most importantly, share your thoughts on this episode, this show, what we have seen till now. Anything you may want to add, non-spoilery, please. And yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.